Every week, college football games hinge on a single word.
Touchdown. Touchdown, Texas. Touchdown, Oklahoma. Touchdown. Touchdown. Touchdown, Wisconsin. Touchdown. 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 Touchdown, Stanford. Touchdown. Touchdown, Alabama. Touchdown, Notre Dame. Touchdown. Wow.
This is Touchdown Radio. Here's Gino Torretta and Taylor Zarzour.
Great to be with you for week 12 of the college football season. Gino, before we go any further, let's get straight to the rankings. Ohio State is still number 1. Indiana is still number 2 after that extraordinary victory last weekend over Penn State. Texas A&M is 3. Alabama, Georgia, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, Oregon are the top 1-loss teams. Texas Tech ahead of Ole Miss after that BYU win. Notre Dame is the top 2 ranked or top 2-loss team in the country at number 9. There's some people, self-included, that don't agree with that. Texas is 10. Oklahoma is 11. Now, BYU drops down to number 12. And technically, Miami and South Florida would get the 11 and 12 spots instead of Oklahoma and BYU, because you got to put an ACC team in the playoffs. Well, or I guess you have to put a conference champion from 5 different conferences in the playoffs, and you have to put a group of 5 team in there as well. Is there a chance that the ACC is not even going to get a bid here? I mean, is there? I know the guys talked about that during the show the other night. I mean, there's no world where the American champion and the Sun Belt champion make it in over the ACC champion. Just let me make sure that's true before we go any further.
Well, I think so, isn't it? Didn't we go through that last year, that the champions all have to go, or no?
No. If it's the top 5 conference champions, and so there is a world where the ACC could miss the college football playoff. I'm just saying I don't think that the ACC champion is going to be ranked behind the Sun Belt champion, and the ACC is going to be totally shut out. But yes, I guess.
Does anybody want to win the ACC?
Well, that's the thing.
That's what I mean, seriously, because we talked about it last week, where Virginia is the only team to control their own destiny.
Yeah.
And now it's like Miami's ranked the highest in the CFP rankings,
but their road to getting
the
championship is murky. Yeah,
I don't even think they can even get in the conference championship game unless a lot of things happen for them besides them winning their last few games. So, that would be, I would say, tragic for the ACC, because obviously we know the monetary reward of making it into the into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I didn't realize that. I thought that the winner definitely was in no matter what. But
get what happened last week. Like you said, Virginia loses to Wake Forest. Louisville loses to Cal. So those two teams now both have 2 losses. Virginia's ranked 19th. Louisville's ranked 20th. Georgia Tech with 1 loss is ranked 16th behind Miami, who has 2 losses. I guess there's a world where, if the ACC champion had 3 losses, could they still be ranked behind a Sun Belt champion and not get in? I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. Honestly, it would not surprise me if SMU gets into the college football playoff again with the way that they're playing. And there still is a road for them to get to the ACC championship game. I do not think that the Sun Belt champion or the Mountain West champion is going to be ranked ahead of the ACC champion. But going back to what we were talking about earlier, Miami does deserve, I think, to be ranked in the best spot of any ACC team because of those wins that they had early in the year, especially the win they had against Notre Dame. Just because Notre Dame lost to 2 really good teams, they get to be ranked 9th? Can you help me understand why they get to be ranked ahead of all the other 2-loss teams?
Well, I think obviously that's a little bit of a history. It's I think somebody's got to be there. Is that a Texas? I mean, is that a Oklahoma, because it just lost on the road recently to Tennessee? Why is BYU got handled? So they got dropped below the some of the 2-loss teams. But I think a lot of this is gonna, continue to shake out. Like the ACC in their scheduling, I mean, Miami has the least amount of conference games played so far. That's why they've been knocked down so far within their own conference rankings. And you know me, I've been a big fan. I think if USC ends strong, they're going to be vying for one of those spots in the in the bottom 12 or whatever, the last few spots into that. And I think there's going to be a lot of change. I would hope that the committee would, there will be a lot of changes. I mean, I don't think this is a layup. I think obviously, Oklahoma's got a huge huge game this weekend. If they win that game, then it's going to be, even more complex of what this ranking system, is going to look like going forward. But I think that, listen, the playoff, I think it has brought all of the, are we going to go down Michigan? I think Virginia, I think of the top 20, maybe even, those teams, you're saying there's a chance. I mean, really?
No, there is. That's the great thing is you probably still have 20 to 25 teams that have some sort of chance to get to the college football playoff. Now, if we include the group of 5 and the American teams, and maybe if they cancel each other out, you could go to the Sun Belt or you could go to the Mountain West. Yeah, there's probably 5 to 10 group of 5 teams that still have a chance. And then there's some teams, like I mentioned, SMU, who's outside the top 25, that still have a path to getting to the ACC championship game. And I know it's splitting hairs. I just don't get it that Notre Dame lost to Texas A&M. They lost to Miami. They really have one impressive win, and it's USC. And that's a good win. But the rest of their schedule leaves a whole lot to be desired. You mentioned Oklahoma, and you did.
They got Pitt coming. They got Pitt coming up.
Yeah. And, okay. Well, there you go.
Pitt's
maybe
tough to.
And Pitt's ranked 22nd, and actually that would be the second best win they've had this year. They did beat Navy just now, who only has a couple losses on the season. But I looking at their schedule compared to Oklahoma, I think you said Tennessee beat Oklahoma. You called the game. You know Oklahoma beat Tennessee. Oklahoma, that's
yes,
that's you were there in Neyland Stadium.
Maybe that was the one game I remembered. I picked the home team and was wrong. I was going
but pick. I mean that's a great win for Oklahoma on the road, winning at Tennessee. Texas did beat Oklahoma. Texas just beat Vanderbilt, which is a really good win right now. So I don't know. I just to me Texas, Oklahoma, those resumes, even Vanderbilt's looks a little more impressive than Notre Dame's does to me. And I'll be interested to see if some of those 2-loss teams, if they went out, jump Notre Dame. As an example, Gino, certainly if Texas goes to Athens, Georgia this Saturday and beats the Georgia Bulldogs, Texas is going to jump ahead of Notre Dame. I wouldn't be surprised if Texas jumps ahead of some 1-loss teams like Oregon, who's currently a 1-loss team.
Do you think? Let me ask you this: with how the current scheduling is and the rankings, is this year more about how the team's playing at the end of the year and not necessarily, considering the, like Notre Dame's for instance, the early losses?
Right.
I think I don't know if in prior years it seems like you were penalized more for those losses, but if you're hot at the end of the year,
if it's splitting hairs and you're trying to look at resumes, then certainly the way you're playing right now will factor in, no question.
Yeah, it seems like that is more of a factor, and like you said, Texas has been coming on strong, and you're right, if they get a huge win this weekend, and I think, listen, you said I think there's an opportunity where there's going to be a 3-loss team in this. And if basically madness happens and college football delivers like it has every single weekend that we've been doing this, that, this could be another weekend that it shakes it up even more and makes that more likely from, I would say the only conference that could have that would be the SEC.
The Heisman Trophy right now, before I even look at the Heisman odds, Is there someone in particular right now you think is the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy?
Well, I would think Mendoza in Indiana. I think he delivered huge in that comeback. Obviously the throw and probably one of the greatest clutch catch this season for sure. At the end of the Indiana at Penn State game, I think that he's got great statistics. His team's undefeated. I think that, as in the past, and you and I both know, the ballots I think come out on the 1st, and the conference championship games are on the 6th, and I think that some people do still vote before the conference championship games. But I would have to think that nobody, I should say, none of the front runners, and the players that are going to be playing in that last weekend is out of it. I really don't.
Oh, I don't think there's any question you're right. And I typically wait as a voter until those games are over with. I have heard some people say,
there's
there's people that vote before
we do it every year. We're like, how many people vote before? And I mean, probably 25% vote before that.
I think that's a good number.
That's an extra game that shouldn't be considered.
So let me ask you this: do you think that we should be allowed to vote after the regular season? Should we have to vote once the regular season is over? Should we include the conference championship games? There are some people saying we should include the entire playoffs in determining who wins the Heisman Trophy. What do you think should be done?
Well, I think that, you should wait until after the conference championship game. But I understand that, for a player to have another opportunity that another finalist doesn't have, or one of the top players, I get that as well. But I always wait until that body work that includes the conference championship games, because I think that, what happens in those games where they're for championships or rivalry games or, top ranked matchups, Georgia Ole Miss, for example, what happens in those kinds of games. And if you have a finalist in those games, I think, to me, I mean, I put a little bit more credence or a little bit more weighting on the performance in those games, because I really think that, to be considered or to win the most outstanding player of the year, it's how did you perform, not only through the course of the season, but how did you perform in those matchups where it was on the line and you had to perform. And that's a different stressor and on you as a player,
no doubt.
And that definitely influences my decision. So I'm going to wait until after the conference championship game. Maybe not all the top guys on my ballot will be in the conference championship games, but it will factor into to my final ballot.
So right now, former Alabama practice squad player Julian Sayin is the favorite according to BetMGM, the Ohio State quarterback. Very funny line Nick Saban had on game day a couple weeks ago saying, what was the head coach thinking, having him on the practice squad? But he is number one on the list. Fernando Mendoza barely is number two. It's close between Sayin and Mendoza. Then you've got Ty Simpson, the current Alabama quarterback, who's next at number 3 on the list. Marcel Reed, the quarterback at Texas A&M for the undefeated Aggies, is number 4. And number 5 is a tie right now from an odd standpoint between Jeremiah Smith, the fantastic Ohio State Buckeye player, who was a terrific wide receiver, of course, and Diego Pavia, the quarterback of the Vanderbilt Commodores. Gino, that was the best performance I've seen in a college football game this season, was what he did against a really good Auburn Tigers defense this past weekend. And certainly from an athletic standpoint or from a prospect standpoint, Mendoza, Simpson, those guys look like NFL players. That's what I think makes Pavia even more impressive to me, is he looks like me playing quarterback out there. Maybe a little thicker, but it's extraordinary, his ability to find a way to be successful on each play, and his instincts are phenomenal. I think he deserves at least a visit to New York for the ceremony. I would say I agree with you. I think Mendoza should be the favorite right now, but I'd also say that's because Julian Sayin at Ohio State, he's been really good, but he hasn't been there, as you said, there hasn't really been adversity yet for the Buckeye quarterback. I know you're going to get to see him this weekend. I probably would say Mendoza deserves to be the favorite right now, and I'd probably put Ty Simpson next, but I would definitely find a way to put Diego Pavia in New York. If there was ever a year to extend the invitations, I think this would be the year.
Well, and listen, they used to have it where, it was the invites to New York were determined by where there was a drop off in votes. It wasn't just always, three players. It would, went to five. I think Sapp's year there was five players that legitimately had a chance that were in the mix based on totals. I think that, of all those players, I think and you're right, with Ohio State, and maybe they haven't been challenged. Heck, I mean, Bernadette, my wife, who doesn't, follow college football as much as we do, she just said, but have they been tested at all this year? I'm like, here's kind of I'm not going to say the average college football fan. I'd probably say less than the average college football fan, but had paid attention.
Yeah, but she has Ohio State people, so
right. They hadn't been challenged, and I would say this, and it's not a knock, but over the history of when voters are voting, and you have a team with multiple players on the same team to have an opportunity that are in that mix. The ballots have been split, and so let's say Ohio State goes and they get to the Big Ten championship game, and it's Ohio State and Indiana, for example, and he has a solid game. Let's say he throws for 320 in the game. Let's say the receiver catches 220. Well, that last performance, a 200-yard game by a receiver, is more impressive than just a 300-yard passing day by a quarterback. And I think that is, and it's not a knock on saying, but it's reality that some people are going to look and say, well, I think he's more of the most outstanding player than the quarterback. And I mean, heck, remember when Reggie Bush and Leinart had already won, and Leinart, was like, hey, Reggie should win, or Jason White and Adrian Peterson. And Jason had already won the Heisman, and he was actively politicking the voters, like during interviews, is like, this guy's the best player in the country, and they split the vote, and neither one of them won, and at least in that year. So I think that there is that opportunity that could hurt both Ohio State players.
Good point.
Chances in being named the most outstanding player at the end, and I think that that. I mean, I would kind of, like, if you're the quarterback and you're thinking, man, I have a chance to win the Heisman Trophy, but if my receiver, who the quarterback has to have a great day for him to have a good day, and then you're like, well, but if he has too good of a day, he could win the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
It's just a dynamic that is there. And listen, I say it every year, and people are like, oh, it's easy to vote for the Heisman. You get a ballot with 3 blank lines on it.
That's so tough. And maybe it's not so hard to pick the winner. It's really hard to pick who should be second and third when you only have 3 choices.
Right, because then you're like, and just like you said, where you're like, Pavia's had the best performance you've seen in person, and you will weight that more, your performances you've seen in person, more than how the performances I've seen in person. Okay, this is the best player I've seen in person, and I'm going to weight that. And at time, you're going to get to your ballot and be like, well, I really want this player to be there in New York. And maybe it changes your third vote. Maybe it changes your second vote.
Right.
Maybe, you know what I mean?
Oh, there's no doubt.
And that's where, people don't understand. if you think it's easy, just go through that exercise. Just start at December. Just say, okay, I have a ballot. How am I gonna vote?
Yeah,
and then
and also to your point, like these games that are coming up can change what you're thinking every week. So right now, if you're making a top 3, no matter who's listening to us right now, if they did that exercise after Texas plays Georgia this weekend, as crazy as this may sound, Arch Manning played well against Mississippi State. He played great against Vanderbilt. If he goes into Athens and just has the game of his life, people may say, okay, maybe I should put him third. And conversely, if Gunnar Stockton, quarterback for Georgia, has a great game against Texas this weekend, people may say, you know what, Gunnar Stockton deserves to be on that ballot. Ty Simpson, I think, of Alabama, is certainly somebody that already is given himself frontline consideration. But you said it. Ohio State plays if Ohio State plays Indiana in the Big Ten championship game, 2 undefeated teams. I think the winner of that game is going to. I think the winning quarterback of that game is probably going to win the Heisman Trophy. If I had to predict right now,
unless Smith has a 200-yard receiving day,
right,
and then you may have an instance where the Ohio State guys split votes, and Mendoza wins. That's I mean, it's a hell of a race. I mean, and just these guys are delivering. It seems like every week. It's fun to watch. I mean, you become a fan of great performances, and you just kind of head scratch at the end of that Indiana game. I was like, wow, that's but I think that sometimes people that don't vote put too much into, was there a Heisman play? Like, is there a Heisman moment? And listen, I think that if you're a finalist and you're considered for the most outstanding player, you've had more than one Heisman play, and it's not necessarily a highlight. I think it's consistent, great performance every single week, highlighted by, hey, remember that play? That was a great play. Remember this play, or remember that when, that guy pulled it out. So I think it's probably less influenced by, maybe Gus Johnson screaming in the mic that says, just give him the Heisman now. So, or I would hope that it would be.
I did my own screaming in the mic on Saturday night with the Auburn-Vandy game. It's a lot of fun. These college football moments are terrific. I want to ask Gino about about each conference and the conversation about the imbalance we have right now, conference to conference. We'll discuss that next on Touchdown Radio Tailgate. All right, let's get right to it. The picks for Week 12 of the college football season. Gino, we're going to start with games that are going on Friday night. The Louisville Cardinals, ranked 20th in the country, host the Clemson Tigers. They're only a 3-point favorite at 7:30 on Friday night on ESPN. I am going to pick Louisville to win the game, though.
Yeah, I'm going to take them too. It's a home team. I think they, with slipping up last week, I think they realize what's on the line right now, and more so than ever. But like I said, does anybody want to win the ACC?
Crazy. Let's go next to number 9, Notre Dame, at number 21, Pitt. Notre Dame's a 12.5-point favorite, noon on Saturday, and this game will be on ABC. I'm taking Notre Dame.
I'm taking Pitt because I want chaos in the rankings. I want that will just basically spice up the ACC race even more as we go forward. And,
okay.
So I'm rooting for Pitt.
I like number 18 Michigan to win at Northwestern, also a noon Eastern kick on Fox.
I'll go with that, but I don't think they're going to cover. I think Northwestern's playing a lot better than as they continue on through the season.
That's at Wrigley Field, by the way, so that should be fun. Let's see. Where are we going next? We're going to the Cincinnati-Arizona game, which number 25 Bearcats are favored by 6 against Arizona, also a 12 o'clock kick on FS1. I'll take UC.
You know what? Arizona's been sneaky, and they haven't broke through on a couple of these games. I'm going to pick Arizona. Okay. I'm going to say they go on the road.
Alabama host Oklahoma at 3:30 Eastern time on ABC. Fourth-ranked Tide is a 6-point favorite against the Sooners. I think it's going to be really close, but I'm taking Bama.
I would agree who wins. I would disagree with the method. I think Alabama rolls. I think that if Oklahoma gets into the quarterback, has to run game, I think Alabama's defense is going to just pound Oklahoma.
Virginia at Duke. Who wants to win this game? 19th ranked Cavaliers are 4-point dogs at Duke on ESPN2, 3:30. I'll take UVA on the road.
I'm going to take UVA as well, but yes, again, the Atlantic Coast Conference. Who wants to win it?
In the Big Ten, we have number 21 Iowa at number 17 USC. I'll take the Trojans in this one.
Fight on, baby. You know I've been a fan all year.
Yep. Utah is at Baylor in the Big 12. Utah's still in the race in the Big 12. Utah's a 7.5-point favorite. I think they win at the Baylor Bears.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great game. But yeah, I would agree. I think Utah has played well enough, and they're in that mix as well for that final spot or the final bottom 12.
Georgia and Texas, Gino. Who you have in Athens on Saturday night?
You know what? I told you, Georgia just believes they're going to make plays at the end of the game to win every week. I think they're at home. The environment is going to be second to none. Night game. I'm going with the Bulldogs.
I would really like to ask everyone listening to not send this to my daughter. Texas is going to beat Georgia on Saturday night in Sanford Stadium in Athens. Keep that between us. Do not send that to. I am an out-of-state tuition-paying parent, but I'm picking Texas. BYU and TCU in Provo on Saturday night. I'll take BYU at home against the Frogs.
Yeah, BYU bounces back. Great environment, Bell Edwards Stadium in Provo. I'll take BYU as well.
Okay, we have 3 differences this week. Notre Dame, Pitt, UC, Arizona, and Texas and Georgia. I have a 1-game lead on the season after the picks of last week, and I'm sure that'll change.
Hold on. I'm texting Grace right now.
Don't do it. Don't do it. She'll get very upset with me about this. That'll be a fun one. Look forward to talking to you about Week 13 next week, Gino. Enjoy Gate Tailgate, Ohio State and UCLA. I'll have Arkansas in LSU. We love doing the show. Thanks for listening to Touchdown Radio Tailgate.